what we've promoted is if I have a webcam that I can place in your home and that can be spot checked, I can learn your behavior over a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd all be surprised to know what amazing creatures of habit we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can staff according to your habits rather than according to uh, uh, my schedule. You
Right.
know, I staff according to your schedule rather than mine.
Right.
And then again, even if you live in a residential care facility, the busiest times are when I get up and get going in the day
Mm-hmm.
and when I terminate my day.
Right.
You know, so those are the heavy times. And so, what can I do with what I call now a five-pronged at-home elder approach? One of them is these webcams that I've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
A second thing is some sort of a personal support device, and that I think that uh, Alexa and Siri, the
Mm.
Amazon and um, Apple products that have personal
Right.
assistants and the Google Home.
Right.
You know, these things now you can program them to call Dr. Teel.
Mm.
You can have them read your audiobooks to you. You can have them collect my shopping list and my to-do lists and then print it for somebody. You
Interesting.
can have them tell me the weather, tell me a joke. I can do all sorts of things with them. So a second approach, I can play games with them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the next thing is this care community, and we've built a sharing the care platform where you can communicate with all of the other people that are helping look after your mom and your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you can Skype with them, you can FaceTime with them, you can use a secure channel if you want to do something else like a medical thing. And again, since I'm really trying to address low income elders' needs,
Mm-hmm.
where is most of the money in healthcare right now? It is in the pockets of healthcare systems and insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
And they are trying very hard to reduce the complexity of care and the institutionalization and the hospitalization of these individuals. So if they will start paying for some of the support
Right.
to help your mom stay out of the emergency room and stay out of the hospital,
Yeah.
what does that entail? Will it allow me to deploy what I call a chronic care kit of a pedometer, a
Mm.
pulse oximeter, a blood pressure cuff, a scale, a pill organizer, and with those things, look after the kinds of things that the healthcare and insurance world would like me to manage better. And I can manage those because I am now connected. Most of the studies on these individuals has shown that the expense that causes them to end up in the emergency room is not because we didn't do enough blood tests or we didn't send them to enough specialists.
Mm-hmm.
It's that we didn't connect with them where they live and we didn't address their day-to-day living problems well enough.
Right.
So as we do those, I believe we can keep most of these individuals in their own homes and save us a big portion of the uh, $2 trillion that we're spending on healthcare.
Right. All right. I'd like to make clear for our viewers, Allan, that the Maine approach that we're speaking of is not just a group of ideas on a piece of paper that, as certainly there has been some reference to, it's actual communities, it's actual homes and individuals that are being served by this group of ideas on paper, as it were. So I guess if you have, just to maybe feed our curiosity, yes, do you have some sense as to how many people are being empowered to live at home under this model?
Well, our small company, when we wrote about this now 7 or 8 years ago, people said, well, that's very well and good
Mm-hmm.
for a rural state like Maine,
Mm-hmm.
but how would this play in the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Uh, and so, taking up that challenge, we've shown that we can provide at-home video support and remote monitoring with some coaching
Mm-hmm.
to folks in 8 or 9 different states so far.
Good.
And so it's only small numbers,
Yeah.
but individuals in Florida, Pennsylvania, Arizona, New Mexico, Ohio, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine.
Wow.
There are a lot of folks that are trying to, New York State,
Yeah.
uh, and again, whereas policymakers are gridlocked on what to do about most anything, there are grassroots organizations, whether they are neighbors banding together to help each other,
Mm-hmm.
whether they are book clubs or church communities or fire departments or social service organizations
Yeah.
or uh, lifelong learning groups or people connected to universities. There are many, many individuals that are noting that their communities are getting old and they're getting old very quickly.
Yeah.
And because of that, we can't wait for state capitals or Washington to figure out how I'm going to do this. And as your situation abruptly showed you a year ago,
Mm.
You weren't expecting that,
Mm-hmm.
and your need was urgent.
Right.
You needed something right away, and you weren't in a position to say, "Well, gee, Chip, I wish you luck. I need something 5 or 10 years from now. I needed it yesterday."
Right.
And so, a big part of this is how do we do this right now?
Right.
And the book was a call to action. This
Right.
interview is a call to action. And how do we do this? And the place to start is at the beginning.
Right.
We deal with a lot of older individuals who are either too proud uh, 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 to or um, uh, don't think they need to do anything. To give you a very good example, when I spoke to a church group in coastal Maine maybe 8 or 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for 2 sign-up sheets for people who might need something and people who might be willing to offer something to somebody else.
Yeah.
All of the 90-year-olds signed up to offer something to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they felt that they weren't as bad off as some of the other folks, and their commitment. And that was a big aha moment for me because I said, okay, I need you to help your neighbor, and let's make you an important part of the solution,
Right.
rather than thinking of you as an isolated care recipient.
Right.
And does that break down some of your reluctance to accept help? Is if I let you do a little something at the same program that I am offering you some service.
Right. I mentioned Allan at the outset, and certainly sprinkled in between, that you're the founder and president of Full Circle America, a national limited profited organization looking to grow the Maine Approach beyond Maine. If you would, tell us just a bit about Full Circle America and your work to establish local affiliates across the country.
Well, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, many local, as I call them, boots on the ground individuals know that their community is getting old. Mm-hmm. And so they have reached out. They saw something on the web. They picked up a copy of the book. They sent me an email and said, what can you do for us right now?
Yep.
And many of these groups have, they're nonprofits for the most part. Mm-hmm. They need some business support. Mm-hmm. they uh, need some help in putting this together. And there are a few of them that read the book and say, let's do something like this on our own, all by ourselves.
Yep.
And many other individuals have found that why spend 5 or 10 years trying to learn what we've already learned?
Sure.
Climb on our shoulders and start building from where we've started,
Right.
you know, and take it from there.
Yeah.
Do we have all the answers? Absolutely not. But there are within each state and community, there are area agencies on aging.
Sure.
There are loads and loads of home care providers and home health agencies. There are lots of churches. There are lots of educational facilities. We have the infrastructure that we need to do this. And so we've reached out, and I won't minimize the effort. The folks that we have worked with the longest and have had the most success have had to roll up their sleeves and do a fair amount of heavy lifting to look after the folks in their community, because as you would expect, the unexpected happens often. Right. The unexpected happens infrequently, but when you would least expect it,
gotcha.
And it's always a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon, or at some point, and so we've had to bill ourselves as a group that has some conscientious people working 24/7, so that our local partners can be available when it works for them and build an affordable model. Right. It really doesn't work, in my mind, to have every community build lots of 24/7, 365 services. Right. You have to have some way to build upon a model. And with the power of the internet, I've actually been able to go into communities that I've never traveled to and put together a roadmap of resources that they already have in their community that could be built upon to create this model. Right. You can find out on the web which grocery stores, hardware stores deliver and have 24-hour pharmacies, and which doctors and pastors and hairdressers are more community-minded than others. You can find that stuff out relatively quickly by asking a few pointed questions to a few people.
Right.